Saturday, last Saturday, NFL playoffs, CJ Stroud, who's a rookie quarterback, he gave thanks to God at the beginning of his interview. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but let's play it because here's the uncut version of him right after he wins, and he's a rookie, and it's a big deal because the Texans haven't been that good. But here it is.
First and foremost, I just want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's been amazing being.
What does this moment mean?
I mean, it's been amazing being in this city for as short as I've been.
So the second clip there, obviously, is from what is it, NBC here, Sunday Night Football on NBC. Yeah, so they cut out the intro there to his comments where he thanks God, and you can't argue because my first thought is why would they cut it, right? What's the benefit of the doubt situation here? And you can't argue that they had to make it shorter, right? It was an extra 5 seconds, even to be 30 seconds. You can't argue that it needed to be under a minute or something like that. Well, what do you think is happening here? Do you think that's legitimately NBC trying to cut that out? Is it just the social media person for them saying we don't need that? Or is it completely innocuous and just saying, let's just get right to the point sort of thing? What do you think about that?
I watched it because always like everybody reacts to everything. And I assume, I said it on my show today too. I assume that people are lying. I'm not paranoid, but I don't think just because I hear a conspiracy theory or like a conservative that, oh, they're telling the truth, I default to like, I don't want to look stupid because everybody's outraged, right? The same way the left does it, the right does it too. So a lot of times they're outraged about stuff that's not even real. I watched the clip. They did just chop it out. She asked the question and then they chopped out the first part of his answer. And the way that they did a jump cut. It's hard to even tell if you didn't see the original thing because they just like go to another part. It almost looks like they zoom in on his face, but it looks different because they chopped it out. So they strategically chopped out the part about Jesus. I think they purposely did it. Like you said, I think your analysis was accurate. They didn't have to do it. It's not like it would have been so long or anything. It was an extra 5 seconds. It was part of his answer, and it wouldn't have taken away from the caption or anything. Like I would assume that the person who works there doesn't like Christians and, didn't want that to be part of it. They didn't want to push his religion, but that's his story. That's what I like about UFC. It's like, if they're Muslim, they're Muslim. If they like Palestine, they like Palestine. If they're Israeli, they're Israeli. It's their story. You know what I'm saying? You can't take a Muslim, guy who says, let me thank Allah and say, oh, he didn't say that. So I think just like you were talking about Toronto sports media, American sports are so derangedly liberal and they don't allow people to have their own opinions that, I think it's a threat that the best rookie quarterback is a Christian and he's a nice guy and he's talented. And I think they want to rewrite his history and say he's just a good quarterback. He's not a Christian. And it's like, no, that's who I'm thanking. So I personally think it was purposely. Personally think it was purposely. That's a tongue twister. What do you think?
I have to reiterate what you said there about the want to not look ridiculous and like shouting out to the hilltops when you don't know something for sure. And I think in politics, when people will so easily use that against you and write you off, that it's important to do that. So I had an example of that in my head from today as well, where people were reacting to Vivek and Trump's speech together last night. And this clip was going around that said Fox News cut right away from Vivek as soon as he started spitting the facts. And the clip is like a minute and a half, and then it cuts to Laura Ingraham. And then I see the full clip, and Laura Ingraham, for whatever you feel about her, she played the press conference for over 7 minutes, and then at some point they cut back to her, and I'm just like, she's got an hour-long show every night. How much of her own show and content do you want her to dedicate to the speech that people probably didn't know what was going to happen? So it's like you can't just take anyone's word for it on either side that, they're cutting away because they disagree with it. Because in a lot of cases, it's not true. A lot of cases, people misquote things. I'll be writing an article, and you can't just go based off what a person has transcribed from a clip. Often it's wrong. Often you're listening to it, and you're like, oh, that's basically what they said. Or they cut it off in a part, and they leave a part out of a quote because that just fits the way they were writing. So it's very important. I think people need to just go and watch the thing for themselves because it's very easy to react. NBC, I want to think that they, as a company, probably didn't say, make sure we cut that clip out when we put it on social media. I think it's more likely the person who is in charge of making the clip made that decision and thought, we don't need that in there. Whether they were thinking that's because we don't want to promote religion at all, or because I don't want to promote his Christianity, you know, I would hope. There's no way for me to know, but being in politics and having been in public relations, and that's a person who's cutting those clips is a social media person, which is usually under 25 years old and a female. In America, I'm going to say they probably like, ew, what the hell's that? Let's cut it out. That's my honest opinion. If I'm being completely honest, I think the person probably made the executive decision to be like, let's cut that out.
Could be. I mean, we'll never know. And I think because
Mhm.
they did that, that clip's going to get more play anyway. So I don't think it's even necessarily a bad thing. And what you were saying about the Vivek thing, like this is where people can't be reasonable, right? I don't care about Fox News. I don't have a big like horse in this race of like I have a huge bias for or against Vivek or for or against Fox News. They're both whatever to me. But yeah, if you have an hour show and you do a 7 minutes of Trump's like that's a lot like you don't have to even give up 30 seconds of your show. So like 7 minutes of your show uh to a rally is more than enough and more than nice. And that happened when Dinesh D'Souza got mad at Tucker Carlson one time. Same thing, like Dinesh and Tucker. I don't have a massive bias. I don't know either of them like personally or anything. So I had no reason at the time to dislike either of them. And Dinesh said, "Oh, I'm exposing Tucker," and he put up like private text messages of Tucker's, worker, and was like and his gripe was they only played a minute and a half of his clip on Tucker's show, and it's like, dude, this is the biggest show on television, and he played a minute and a half of your clip. He could play 30 seconds, he could play 15 seconds, like. That's cool. Like if I said, "Hey, could you play my clip on your show?" First of all, you don't have to do that, Andrew. And if you did, and I would be grateful that you played a minute and a half, especially if you were Tucker Carlson. It's the biggest like that's a good ad. That's longer than most commercials. Like, what do you want them to sit there for 5 minutes and play it? So yeah, it's sad that so many people don't have discernment, and when stuff like this happens, they just kind of want to be outraged. So yeah, I made sure I checked that clip, the Shroud one, because I assumed that maybe people were lying. But then I watched it and I was like, no, that cut was it was purposeful and definitely at least deliberate. And like you said, I could speculate all I want why they did it, but only God knows. And God got a little more play today because the outrage made it more famous. So it works out in the end.
Turn it up, Jordan.